Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. We're looking at the fourth video. Finally, we're getting some traction here. I skipped last week, so I'm putting out two this weekend. I'm trying to get on a regular weekly upload, and eventually bi-weekly we're gonna throw some shorts in there. My goal is to hit a video every week for an entire year and slowly improve little by little to the point where I have a good YouTube channel. I'm hoping the content that I'm putting out here makes up for the lack of quality, because let's face it, I'm new to this and I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Well, with all that said, welcome to the channel, people that don't know me, which is all of you. This is my angle, and I am James Angley. Today, we're going to be talking about something that's near and dear to my heart, which makes no sense to me because I don't own one of these. I never have. I don't know anybody who has one. I've never even driven in one. I just know that I've always wanted one, and they've always spoke to me as something that's pretty damn cool. So today, we are talking about the Nissan Xterra. Let's do a little bit of a deep dive, a shallow deep dive, into the history of the Nissan Xterra. There are essentially two generations if you really break it down. There's been some facelifts throughout the years, but in reality there are two generations for the Nissan Xterra at this moment. So let's get into it. The first generation, Nissan released the Xterra for the 2000 model year. So for 2000, 2002, we're looking at an awesome body on frame, tough off-roading vehicle, had some square headlights, and the engine options were a 2.4 liter 4-cylinder, a 3.3 liter V6, and then they eventually, during the facelift models in 2002, released a supercharged V6. So when you think about Xterra, I always wondered, where did that come from? You know, it's just like 4Runner. Where does 4Runner come from? So when it comes to Xterra, believe it or not, Xterra, it was a vehicle specifically made for the Gen Xers, for the X generation, which is kind of wild when you think about it. That'd be like the Mazda Millennial, which it just doesn't roll off the tongue. But actually, now that I think about it, that would actually kind of be a cool model if you made it something that was specifically geared towards an entire generation. Maybe you'd have some luck, although the Xterra was canceled, so maybe not. But if you ask me, it was only canceled because of Nissan sales expectations, not because of low sales numbers. The Xterra was a really good vehicle at a really good time, and to get rid of it right before the overlanding off-road boom was one of 8 million bad decisions that Nissan has made in the past. So let's move on. So like I mentioned, there's two generations with multiple facelifts in between. This first generation, square headlights, a lot of people don't even remember what that looks like because that was a short number run before they really upgraded it. One thing to be noted here, this first generation had 10.4 inches of ground clearance. That's the highest of all of the models. And it wasn't for all of them, it was only for certain models. But 10.4 inches of maximum ground clearance is nothing to scoff at. That's a pretty good level of clearance to have for a factory vehicle. That's awesome. Now we go to 2002. That's when the facelift happened. That's when they switched to the round headlights and basically what we know as the front end of the Xterra. And it's changed. The second generation looks different, but when you look at the facelifted first generation compared to the regular second generation, these all came from the same lineage. It's more of a evolution than a revolution. So what we know as the Xterra started, if you ask me, in 2002. They also had a hood bulge, a couple other exterior features. The hood bulge was actually to incorporate this supercharged V6 that we mentioned before. This is also where they started to introduce the 4-liter V6, which was slightly more powerful, more of a user-friendly powertrain that people sort of liked. This generation had some transmission issues, specifically with the automatics. Again, very reliable, very robust vehicle. There was ways to mitigate this. It's, I would say, blown out of proportion, but that's just me. Again, I will go back to the beginning. I never owned one. I didn't have one. I didn't know anybody who had one. I think this is a great vehicle, solid, something that, you want to see pop up on Walking Dead, and you're not going to question like, "Oh, well, how the hell did that make it here?" like you did with the Hyundai sponsorship. No offense. They had a slightly larger body, and with that V6, it was slightly more powerful. It just made it a better vehicle overall. This second generation here. I mean, huh, let's not get confused here. It is the first generation with a facelift. A lot of people call that like a 1.5, not so much a 2.0. Now, when we go to 2005, that's when we get into the second generation. Oddly enough, 9.5 inches of ground clearance. Those of you who are keeping score, that's an inch difference basically. I don't understand these decisions. I know an inch is not a lot, but an inch in the off-roading world, you take all you can get. There's
Well, you always
that's what
left
she
me
said.
satisfied and
Anyway,
smiling. So
there is some merit to
That's
be
what she
brought up
said.
here with the first generation having more ground clearance, more basic vehicle. I'm not going to dive into that. I'm not going to get into the Xterra forums on page 67 when you have a first gen guy arguing with a second gen guy about which one's better. These are all great off road vehicles. So, one good thing with the second generation is they offered the off road package or the off road trim or the off road edition, however you want to word it. We're going to say off road trim for this. This was also known as the Pro 4X as you get later on into the model year. So from 2005 to 2010, the Pro 4X, or sorry, the off road edition was offered, and then it switched over to the Pro 4X, which is up to date with Nissan's most recent naming convention that they've been using for years, which is very easy to understand. So they should stick with this. This is something that we all understand and we all know. The Pro 4X and the Off Road Edition, as mentioned, are exactly the same, just with a different name. And you're kind of probably wondering what is the difference between a regular Nissan Xterra versus a Pro 4X, or a regular Nissan Xterra versus the off road trim package. And I'll tell you right now, and I wrote this down because I have terrible memory. A Pro 4X has a rear e-locker, so an electronic rear locking differential. Everybody knows that that is the bare minimum you need when it comes to off-roading. It would be greater if it had a front one or a center one to partner up with it, but I digress. It added some off-road Bilstein shocks, a little bit more skid plate protection, off-road off-road tech such as hill descent control, BFGs, so some good off-road tires, and a little bit of off-road trim as far as exterior details and stuff like that. When you picture an Xterra, you probably picture a second gen Xterra Pro 4X. I know that's what I picture, and I want one. The force is strong with this one. This was from 2009 to 2015. That 2015 is when the production ended on this. So as we look at past, present, and future, we're talking about the present time. 2015 is when it ended, and this is the Xterra that you'd have to get if you wanted an Xterra now. And you know what? More power to you. I suggest you pick up one of these because it has been tried and proven and tested. The the Xterra is a great vehicle. It should also go to mention that this new generation, this second gen 2.5, because it's technically a facelift, it had a different front grille and things like that. This one got rid of those transmission issues, which, as I mentioned, were not as big as people thought they were, but it got rid of that issue. So I would say if you can afford the lowest mileage, best condition 2009 and up Xterra, get one. I especially like it in that blue color. And I'm not somebody who likes colors at all. I think if I was to buy one, I'd probably buy one in silver. But man, every time I see one in that blue color or the original one in the yellow color, man, that is something that I like. The press release for the Xterra back in the day was always that yellow color. And anybody who grew up in the Nissan Xterra Hummer H2 era knows yellow is better. It just is. I don't know why. It's more off roady, and that's not even a word, but it is better. So, again, 2009 and up, if you could get one of those Xterras, I recommend you get one. Some cool features that I didn't mention on here that the Xterra has that I always enjoyed was the roof mounted cargo basket. It had this basket right over the roof because Xteras, if you look at the profile of them, they have this stadium seating set up. So the roof actually goes up at the back seat, and because of that, to make it not look awkward or weird, they included this roof rack that comes down. It's a half rack. It covers from the front or from the rear seat up to the front of the vehicle. And they incorporated a roof basket in there, which you could throw muddy boots, equipment, gloves, whatever you might have, some parts of your winching capabilities, like your tree straps, stuff that's dirty that you don't want to have in the vehicle. You could throw it up there and out of the way where you're not going to have to worry about it. And I think that's just such a cool thing. A lot of people don't even know this too. In the trunk, there's a cargo area under the trunk area where normally you'd find like your equipment to change a spare, stuff like that. But it's just a huge cargo area. I saw a really cool picture online where some guy had his skateboards in there and he had them strapped down with this nice net to keep it from flying around. That is an extremely useful area. I'm a big fisherman. I have a deck storage drawer system in the back of my truck. I have a couple fishing rods in there, a couple reels, my backpack with all my fishing equipment in it. It's a really useful tool, and having that in the back of your truck out of the way but always there is such a useful feature. I think that we're missing out on that in some of the cars. We do have a lot of cool storage solutions now in the modern world, but this is awesome to me. You have an exterior storage box or basket, whatever you want to call it, to keep all your muddy stuff outside and not in your vehicle. And then in the back, you have a hidden storage compartment to keep all the other stuff in. And that brings me back into that cargo area. That is like plastic lined, rubber lined, whatever it might be. It's easily washable. You can hose it down. Another useful feature, say your roof box is full of all your winching equipment, all your stuff that you just got covered in mud from toe straps and all this other stuff, and you want to throw your boots in the back because you're back off the trail and you're ready to ride home and you're ready to slip on your slippers and get off your muddy boots, you could put that all back there, and when you get home, just hose it all down. That is so cool. I know that a lot of cars are really preaching this now. Even the new Defender, which is a luxury vehicle, if you think about it, has some of this feature where you can, water down the interior and get all that mud, all that dirt out of it. I don't think it's some cool new feature. I think it is a necessity. I had an old Super Duty that had it was an XL, so it was basically the work truck base model. I could hose down that interior if I wanted, and that is just so cool. It gives you such peace of mind knowing that you can get that cleaned up. I love that. Again, another cool feature that they have in there, in that trunk area, there was a first aid kit on the tailgate. So when you lift up that tailgate, there was a first aid kit on there. If you've ever been behind an old Xterra, you'll notice that the back window kind of goes over and then dips down, and there's a little spot that juts out there. That was strictly, let's face it, more of a design exercise, but also gave them a little bit of extra room to put that first aid kit on the tailgate. I think that's pretty cool. Is it a little obnoxious? Is it a little bit, I don't know, sensational nonsense to just add extra design just to have a first aid kit that you could have easily put in one of like the side cargo pockets in the trunk? Yeah, sure. But is it something that I remember as a kid thinking, wow, that's a cool design and I really like that? Also, yes. So don't forget that when you're designing cars, car companies, little things that you think are just stupid and just extra and nonsense, it's worth it. It's worth it. To this day, I still want one of these. I still want a Chevy Avalanche North Face edition, which if I polled 1,000 Americans, three of them are going to know what that even is. But I won it because in the past I had a North Face jacket. I love their equipment. I saw Chevy had a Chevy Avalanche North Face edition, and I thought, wow, okay, I want one of those. And let's face it, the Avalanche was not the most desirable vehicle. I'm getting way off topic. Maybe I should do a video on that. Comment below, see if you guys want to do something like that, and I'll do that. Another thing, the high mounted rear door handle. You could call this a gimmick. You can call it nonsensical design language, whatever you want. This is going back to that first aid kit. The reasoning that they said that this rear door handle was so high was so when you're off-roading, you're going through the mud and the muck and you're slinging it up with your front tires all over the side of the body, it was in a better position to get away from all that mud. I like that. I don't care how dumb that sounds. I like that. That is a good design. That is something that when I look at the Xterra, that's something that I think is part of the DNA of that vehicle. And I think that there's zero wasted, I don't know how you word this, but zero wasted extra design language in that. Now, that covers past, that covers present. Let's talk about the future. I already mentioned that the Xterra dropping out right before this huge overland off-roading craze came into fashion was one of in a very long line of bad decisions that Nissan made, probably the worst one. I think if the Nissan Xterra continued its evolution in the off-roading world, I think that, man, it could be one of the ultimate contenders in this. How many Forerunner sales had to go by for Nissan to realize, wow, we made a poor decision? Not only did they stop making it, they were adamant on, nah, we're done. We're not making another one. That's it. This is a fad. Our sales were dropping. Please, Nissan, I know that you don't want to listen to every one of your fans. I know that the person telling you that the 350Z needs a manual transmission and should be the most basic sports car in the world is not the person who's going to drive your sales number. But I also know that these enthusiasts, they have a point. You need to offer something for the masses with the enthusiast in mind. And we're going to go over that a little bit in here. So, it's no longer a rumor. It's confirmed. There will be another Xterra. We're going to call it the third generation. I don't even know if that's correct because technically there's been so much time off. Is it really a third generation? Let's dig in. The Drive, a very famous automotive news blog, website, whatever you want to call it, they were once the absolute pinnacle of YouTube, if you ask me, in the automotive world. The Drive got to interview Michael Sauter, I believe is his name. He is the head of marketing, the senior VP of marketing and sales for Nissan. If there's somebody to talk to about the new Xterra, it's this guy. In that interview, he said some really good things. Nissan, let's face it, they've had their hardships. But this guy was saying all the right things. And I'm hoping, one, he stays in this position or moves higher. Two, what he said comes to fruition. Starting with the fact that they want it to be sub $40,000 when it starts. I love the fact that they're talking about affordability. Nissan Nissan has always had an affordable model, but that doesn't mean it's good. If this Xterra could be in that sub $40,000 and good, and I'm not expecting the top of the line Pro 4X brand new Xterra to be under $40,000. I'm expecting the entry level one to be that. I'll accept it as long as you tick the box for Pro 4X and it doesn't go up 30 grand. I think where their head is at is fantastic, especially in this world of crazy, crazy car prices. From that, he mentioned it has to come in yellow. I already touched on this a little bit. Yellow was the color for the Xterra. I don't want one. It would be cool to have one if somebody gave it to me. I think, wow, that'd be the coolest thing to be sitting in my driveway. I'm not a yellow car guy in terms of what I'm actually going to buy. But when I look back on the Xterra, yellow is sweet. I think that would be badass. The fact that he's even bringing up that yellow color is so cool. So I'm hoping the press release version of these has a couple yellow Xterras. Now we go into what he pictures for the design philosophy here: basic, low tech, low price. Some people look at this as like a negative or something like that, but with low tech, you get less problems and, more importantly, lower pricing. That's how they're going to keep it under that $40,000. You're not going to have every single feature that you got in a Mercedes S Class. It's just not going to happen. And I welcome it. I love the idea of having a rugged, basic vehicle in Nissan's lineup. Look how well the Bronco's doing. Look how well the new Defender's doing, which is crazy to think about that. I'm saying that's basic compared to the old Defender. But let's continue. The Jeep, the Forerunner. Everybody wants this off road basic vehicle. Give the people what they want. It has to be capable, it has to be fun. These aren't my words. These are the words of the marketing and sales SVP from Nissan. Speaking our language, guys. We are car people. This is exactly what we've been saying we want. So let's hope he keeps going with it. He recognizes that you may not off road with this vehicle, but you are going to love the fact that it can. I mentioned this in the past video, I believe, or it might have been the one before that. Jeremy Clarkson mentioned his watch. Oh, this thing goes, whatever it was, 200 meters underwater. Am I ever going to dive that far? No. Why do I wear it? Because I like the fact that I know it can. You get a little bit of peace of mind knowing that the thing that you're using can do more than you're ever going to ask of it. This is perfect. I'm loving where his conversation's going here. Another part, he wants it prepped for the aftermarket. He wants wiring to go up to the roof or go up to the roof trunk area, things like that, where you're going to add extra exterior lights. He wants it to be prepped for accessories. He wants the aftermarket to come in. He recognizes that that's an issue, something that they have an oversight on. I love that idea. Bronco's really been capitalizing on that. They have GoPro mounts on the inside. They have different lighting mounts on the outside. Those little trail sights that they put on the hood. I've seen people put limb risers on that. It's pretty awesome. I mean, this kind of stuff. I recognize that you're talking about 10% of the people that are going to buy it, maybe even 5. But you're talking about a very vocal 5-10%. You're talking about a lot of people who are making a lot of noise. Are they going to be the ones that are buying it all the time? No, but the people who are buying those models are going to be loud. That's something you need. This is the reason car brands have halo models, because when you have something to aspire to, when you have something that you want, man, you're going to talk about it. Somebody's talking trash on Nissan Xterra, you're going to have somebody who's going to back that up and say, no, you are wrong, and this is why. It's because they make cool stuff like this. Now, as much as I talked about all that, one of the things he doesn't see necessary is a manual transmission. I've owned, I've directly owned, I don't know, one manual transmission vehicle. I'm not a huge manual guy. I think your fun car should be manual. I also think that sitting in traffic with a manual car is stupid. It's you recognize why automatics exist. Any driving besides fun driving, a manual is just not where it's at. So the fact that he's not considering this is a little bit upsetting. It would be cool. As you see, the Bronco came out with a manual. Again, talking to that, whatever it is, 5, 10%, it's probably even less than that, that are enthusiasts that want an enthusiast vehicle. But when that came out, all, and I mean all of the automotive journalists were talking about how cool it was, especially a 7 speed because it had that first crawler gear for actual off roading. You know it was purpose built. It gives it a little bit of street cred. That's why it's taken sales from Jeep because they took this seriously. One of the questions that they asked at the drive was, "Is it going to have removable doors?" He got blown off about this one, basically saying, no, I don't really see the need for that, and I agree. It would be cool, I guess, but removable doors is not something I really look for. When the Bronco came out, I wanted it, but on all other vehicles, I could care less, honestly. If it's not like a completely bare bones Jeep or Bronco, I could care less about the removable doors. This is not a make or break deal for me. It would be kind of cool to have removable roof panels like the Freedom roof in the Hummer EV. I think that's under discussed feature. I want Freedom panels in a Suburban. I think it would be awesome if you could take those off in a Suburban. Maybe they'll put it on some weird Suburban EQL, like the Escalade, like the electric Suburban version of this. That'd be kind of cool. GM, if you're listening, put it in there. You already have all of the design for it. You just have to change by brand. They talked about the overall ethos of what the Xterra should be, and the words that they came up with were fun, simple, and capable. I love it. You were speaking my language. You were speaking everybody's language. Everyone who ever said the Xterra shouldn't have went away is saying this. Now, here's some unconfirmed features, something that he hasn't talked about on that meeting, at least on that interview, but it's been talked about online a lot, and a lot of pages are saying that this is a thing. The Xterra with a plug-in hybrid. I know I just ranted and raved about how simple and less features and the more affordable it gets. That being said, plug-in hybrid would be kind of cool. Hear me out. The rumors are that this plug-in hybrid Xterra would have 75 miles of EV range. Imagine you got your car plugged in, you unplug it in the morning, it has a full tank, aka a full battery, and you're able to run all your errands. You're able to drop your kid off at school, go grocery shopping, come back home, go back out to pick them up, and just run a day's worth of driving and not have to spend a penny on gas. I know for everyone that's not the case, but I do know that on average, people are driving 30 to 40 miles a day. So 75 would 100% cover that with some room to spare, because let's face it, 75 really means 50. It would cover all of the average people in America's driving habits, all under battery power. I love that idea. You're talking about not having to pay for gas except for every other month. This is perfect. I know people shudder, especially automotive enthusiasts, at the fact that there's some electricity involved here, but a plug-in hybrid is a pretty good deal for the average driver, and I think that this is the route that they should go on. I'm not going to lie. I'm taking a hard line in the sand that this is where it should go. 75 miles of range. That would be amazing. I work from home. I'm privileged. I know that. God, I'd be filling this thing up every 6 months. It would be awesome. It would be perfect for my wife, who does exactly what I talked about: drops kids off at school, goes grocery shopping, runs some errands, comes back home. She could probably get through her day without ever having to go to a gas station. I'm the one who fills up the car most of the time. That means I don't have to go to a gas station. This is a win win. The less you run that engine, the less wear you're putting on it, the less things that, in theory, should break. I love the idea of this. If they come out with a plug in hybrid Xterra with 75 miles of range, I might pull my Scout reservation. That's a bold claim, by the way. I really love that Scout. But in conclusion, we talked about the past, we talked about the present, we talked about the future of the Nissan Xterra. I want you guys to drop a comment below. Let me know your thoughts on the Nissan Xterra. Let me know how you feel about it coming back. Let me know if you have any hatred towards the Xterra and why. If you love it, if you're an owner, please drop it in a comment. Tell me how it is. Let me know if I should test drive one, because I love these cars. I think they're awesome. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Again, this is my angle, and I am James Angley. Thank you.